5 days before a major earthquake struck Italy in 2009, all the swallows in the city suddenly vanished. No one knew where they had gone. They returned sometime after the earthquake. This is not a legend. It is a real observation published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal by researchers from the Max Planck Institute. And this is not an isolated case. Throughout history, birds have been reported exhibiting strange behaviors hours or even days before major earthquakes, suddenly flying away, singing at abnormal hours, gathering in groups, or, on the contrary, disappearing entirely. So how is this possible? Is it possible for birds to sense something we cannot perceive? Today we will search for the answer to that question. What science has found so far, and how that bird in your garden feels things you never notice. Stay until the end, because what I'll share in the 5th section reveals that birds sense not only earthquakes, but much more. And this knowledge will completely change the way you look at the birds in your garden. Section 1. The L'Aquila Earthquake and the Disappearing Birds. April 9th, 2009. L'Aquila, Italy. The swallow colony that had been nesting around the city for years left the area collectively, exactly 5 days before the earthquake. Researcher Martin Wikelski and his team from the Max Planck Institute were already tracking these birds. They were fitted with mini GPS transmitters, and the data showed this. The birds moved suddenly and collectively, far ahead of their normal migration time, with no change in weather conditions. They did this 5 days before the earthquake. The researchers initially considered this a coincidence. But the earthquake happened, and the birds returned, and the data sat on the table. When Wikelski published this observation, the scientific world was divided in two. One side took it seriously. The other called it a coincidence. But the question still stands. If it's a coincidence, why exactly 5 days before? Why collectively? Why did they leave when weather conditions were normal? Section 2. What birds feel, but we cannot. To explain changes in bird behavior before earthquakes, researchers developed several theories. First theory, infrasound. Before earthquakes occur, low-frequency sound waves propagate along fault lines, at frequencies too low for the human ear to hear. But birds can detect these frequencies. It has been documented that pigeons can perceive incredibly low frequencies as low as 0.05 Hz. We can hear at best 20 Hz. Birds leave us completely behind in this regard. Second theory, electromagnetic changes. Before an earthquake, as underground rocks grind against each other, changes occur in the electromagnetic field. Some researchers suggest that birds may be able to sense these changes through their magnetic navigation systems. It has already been proven that birds perceive magnetic fields. They use this during migration. So could this same system also be picking up underground activity? Third theory, radon gas. Before an earthquake, radon gas leakage from underground increases. Some animals are thought to detect this chemical change through smell or skin receptors. How birds pick this up has not yet been clarified, but the correlation is strong. Section 3. Not just earthquakes. Now I will paint a much broader picture for you. What birds sense in advance is not just earthquakes. Hurricanes, tsunamis, floods, severe storms. Hours before the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, the flamingo colony in Sri Lanka began flying toward the inland areas. When the tsunami struck the coast, the flamingos were already safe. In 2005, days before Hurricane Katrina, abnormal movements were observed in bird populations along the Gulf of Mexico coast. And you have probably noticed yourself that the behavior of birds in your garden changes before every major storm, coming to the feeder more often, eating faster, or disappearing entirely. This is not a random situation. Researchers have documented that birds perceive barometric pressure changes with extreme sensitivity through special pressure receptors in the inner ear. These receptors relay approaching weather changes to the bird long before we feel them, so the birds in your garden carry a more reliable forecasting system than the weather app on your phone. And they do this all the time. Section 4. The discovery of Japanese scientists' Japan. The Tohoku earthquake. Before one of the most destructive earthquakes in history, Japanese researchers had recorded abnormal behavior in chicken farms in the region. Days before, the chickens had stopped laying eggs. This observation later developed into a more systematic study, and the researchers found chickens reduce or completely stop egg production on average 2 to 3 days before an earthquake. The mechanism has still not been fully understood, but the pattern has been observed time and again. And this does not apply only to chickens. Long-term catfish observations were conducted in Japan. Pigeon movements in the region were examined. Each time, the same pattern: abnormal behavior before the earthquake, returning to normal after the earthquake. Japan is currently researching integrating these animals into official early warning systems. This is not a speculative idea. It is an active research program in progress. Section 5. The early warning system in your garden. Now, I will tell you the most important thing. The birds in your garden are living sensors equipped with millions of years of evolutionary sensitivity. We do not know the full list of things they feel. We probably never will. But even what we do know is astonishing. They detect infrasound. They sense changes in the magnetic field. They measure barometric pressure. They may be detecting electromagnetic fluctuations. And they do all of this without any technological instrument at every moment. And right now in your garden, on those branches visible from your window, on that fence, by that feeder, they are feeling the world. From frequencies you could never perceive, from signals you could never read. The next time the behavior of the birds in your garden suddenly changes, if they suddenly fall silent, if they suddenly move collectively, if they suddenly abandon the feeder, stop. Just stop and ask, what do these birds know? You may not know the answer. But asking the question brings you one step closer to their world. We humans see ourselves as the beings with the most advanced perception system in the world. We have phones, we have satellites, we have seismographs, and we still cannot predict earthquakes in advance. That little swallow in your garden knows 5 days before. Think about that. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed the behavior of birds in your garden changing before a natural event? A storm, earthquake, flood. What did you see? Tell me. I read them all. See you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you for watching.